are listening to the Up and Under podcast, starting in 3, 2, 1.
Yo, what's up, guys? Welcome into the Up and Under podcast. I'm your host, Hani. Joined with me, as always, is Zishan.
Yo.
Alright, man, if you haven't checked out our last episode, definitely check it out. We broke down our final predictions for this for the 2020-21 season. In that episode, we broke down the awards predictions. So if you haven't done so, definitely go check that out. Link will be in the description for YouTube and show notes for audio listeners out there. But, man, continuing on talking about this season, it's been a weird one, man. Like, this season is just off to a weird start.
It's a weird season for a weird year, right? We saw in the bubble, that was probably the weirdest set of games we ever had in the bubble last year. And this season has gone off to a weird start as well. I was talking to Hanya about it in the before we did the episodes as well. Season's been filled with a bunch of blowouts, pretty much. It's just been one blowout after another blowout after another blowout.
Yeah.
I would say it pretty 50-60% of the games I swear have been blowouts.
There's been a lot of blowouts for sure. But I think the major thing is, the major element to why the season is so weird is when you look at the standings. Just the standings, they look so weird right now. And like, there are teams in positions that we didn't think were going to be in that position heading into the season.
I would say our season predictions are already off to a great start.
Oh man, they're off to an amazing start, man. We totally predicted this standings.
If you haven't checked out that episode where we broke down the Western Conference standings and then the Eastern Conference standings, make sure to check those episodes out because they're always fun episodes for us to make. To see pretty much how wrong we are every single season. And it never fails.
You know what? We were right. We were pretty close last season. This season, we're off to a pretty bad start.
Yeah.
But speaking of bad starts, we want to talk about some of the teams that are either overachieving or underachieving to start the season. Now, I know it is pretty early to start the year. We've only maybe less than 10 games into the season?
Yeah, less than 10 games right now.
Less than 10 games, but we've seen enough to truly kind of see who's performing well and who's not performing well to start the year. And man, there's a lot of teams that are either one way or the other. Some of them are good teams that are underperforming, and some of them are bad teams that are overachieving.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of insane how that works. But let's jump right into this. The first, we want to start off with the underachievers for this season, mainly because we have a lot to say about one particular team.
Hits close to home.
It really hits very close to home. And so the first underachieving team, in our opinion, is the Toronto Raptors. As painful as that is to say.
Yeah.
The honest truth is, man,
they suck.
Yeah, they're playing like garbage. Like, they're playing very bad. They're 1-5 to start the year. And a lot of it just has to do with the Raptors blowing double-digit leads in 5 out of the six games. The Boston game was probably the worst game out of all 6 that the Raptors played. Like, it's so frustrating. And for those of you out there who are going to say, oh, the Raptors are a trash team, that's not it. They're not a trash team. Every analyst, every article that you read about the Raptors are basically saying the same thing. This is a good team underperforming. And the problem is mainly on the offensive end. The Raptors are 29th in offensive rating, last in field goal percentage, and not to mention your best player, your number one option in Pascal Siakam, is struggling to create anything on offense, and defensively he's not being disciplined anymore. And it's just so apparent when you watch this team. You watch this team play. There are just moments on the offensive end where there's nothing that can be generated. Like, if we didn't have Fred VanVleet save us in a few of these games, these games would have been blowouts. Like,
not to mention Fred VanVleet himself. The Boston game was good, don't get me wrong. But the rest of the games too, you can say he's not performing as well as we have seen him be able to.
It's definitely a team effort as to why this team isn't performing well. And it starts from the top. It starts at Pascal Siakam, and this guy, although he's gotten better since the beginning of the year, but he hasn't looked right since the bubble, since that playoff series with the Celtics. He just hasn't looked like the same player that we saw last season blossom into an all-star. You know, he's making questionable decisions. He's missing reads. He's not playing discipline on defense. And it's really hurting the team because when your best player can't score, it trickles down to the rest of the team.
There's a couple of things I want to talk about with the Raptors too. Number one is their bench is absolute garbage, so they have no bench scoring at all. And they rank fourth last in bench points per game. That's the first thing. Now this is impacted by a bigger issue, which happened in the offseason. Serge Ibaka and Marc Gasol leaving. We replaced those centers to probably one of the better center lineups in the league, if not maybe the best.
It was a very good center rotation.
One of the best center rotations in the league. On both ends. Exactly, on both ends. And we replaced that with Aaron Baines and Alex Len. And, Chris Boucher also plays as well.
Alex Len has been alright in spurts. Like, he's not spectacular by any means, but I don't think he's necessarily terrible. Aaron Baines is the one that's a little questionable, because we expected, okay, at least he can be a better version of Marc Gasol for us.
Okay, not better version, but he can at least replicate some of what Marc Gasol.
Sorry, he can be a better offensive version of Marc Gasol for us.
In terms of I think like offensive.
Yeah, he's not going to replace Marc Gasol on the defensive end.
And not passing either, but in terms of pure shot creation and putting up points, at least he would be able to eclipse Marc Gasol in that department. That hasn't happened. He's had games where he shot last game against Boston. He shot 0 for 5,
and he missed layups, man. Like, easy layups. Like, you're right under the basket. These should be easy shots.
He just hasn't been good. And you're talking about it. It's a team-wide thing where everyone seems to be struggling. The only person that's actually impressed me so far is Chris Boucher, because I did not think he'd be this good. But he's been pretty good.
Boucher has been very good in his role this season. I mean, Kyle Lowry he's been doing his Kyle Lowry thing, but
I mean, the percentages aren't great, but
the percentages for the entire team isn't great, which again comes down to why. It's Nick Nurse's biggest frustration right now that nobody can seem to figure out. Why can't this team is struggling to hit open shots.
And I've seen a lot of people talking about Nick Nurse, like it's a lot of casuals who don't really understand the game, and they're talking about Nick. I've seen stuff about Nick Nurse should be fired. He should play Utah more. He should play Malachi Flynn more.
Okay, we tried the Malachi Flynn thing. It
didn't work. And it comes down to a lot of casuals want to, point out these issues.
Well, they want a fall guy. They want someone to blame.
Exactly. They want someone to blame. Thing is, it's not really Nick Nurse's fault. Now, has Nick Nurse making some questionable decisions? Yeah, I'll agree with that. But in terms of Nick Nurse's rotations, the main problem isn't Nick Nurse. The problem is that he can't find any rotation that actually works because everyone stinks.
Oh, and speaking of someone who stinks, it's Norman Powell. Norman Powell was playing like absolute garbage.
He had one good game, and the rest of the games has been absolute garbage.
Ironically, it's the one game he started. Like, it was the one game he started, and people are saying, "Oh, why don't we start Norman Powell?" Well, if we start Norman Powell, we have nobody off our bench.
We have even less than we do right now.
It's so disappointing to watch the Raptors, because we've been so accustomed to them being this model of consistency and just being this winner, that to see them come to this, we knew they were going to be a step back from last season, but not this much of a step back.
Again, it comes down to a lot of the fans being spoiled, which we did call it. We called it before the season, right? We're going to see who are actual Raptors fans and who are bandwagon fans, right? Because a lot of Raptors fans now, and not their fault either. There's a lot of new NBA fans and a lot of new Raptors fans, so they didn't have to experience the Primo Pasta days like we did. Andrea Bargnani, Anthony Parker, garbage teams.
Okay,
right?
We're not at that level. We're not at unwatchable levels.
Exactly, right? We're not at that level, but we're gonna see who's a real Raptors fan and who isn't, right? We've been spoiled by the success that they've had. We expected them to not have as much success this season as they've had the last couple of seasons. The problem I have with this team is the lack of effort that they've shown. Right?
Yeah, that's big.
Even when they were a 43-45 win team, the effort that they showed was spectacular, right? They would be in games. The effort that they're giving right now, you talked about it, multiple double-digit blown leads.
And it's all just from dry spells.
Dry spells, and there's a lot of they don't seem to have the right. Kyle Lowry talked about it too. They don't have that swag about them, right?
Yeah.
We talked about it before in previous episodes quickly. Even last year when they were down in games, we always thought every single game, there wasn't one game where I thought, yo, this game's over. I felt every single game, even against, for example, the Dallas game, right, where they were down by 30 points. You always thought that they could come back. Now it's like if they're up by 15, you don't think they're gonna hold the lead.
Yeah.
You think they're still gonna lose the game when they're even up by like 15 points.
There's clearly something missing with this team right now. I still think it's early, and I think this team can still turn it around. The first thing is they need to start hitting shots, which I can't stand when you miss an open look and you're an NBA player. But so okay, I get it. Shots don't fall, but eventually when they start falling, hopefully things will turn around. But I do think something's missing. I think the Raptors need to make a trade or some type of move because this team needs a spark, man.
And then quickly too, I think one thing that really hurts them is that they're not at home, right? They're obviously in Tampa. That hurts. And then obviously when they're in their home arena with the 3,800 fans there, the fans are majority of the time like cheering for the other team, right? So that hurts them in one aspect. Number two, I don't know if this is true or not, but I feel like there's something wrong with the chemistry. I don't know if there's something happening behind the scenes, but all season or the season so far, it's looked like something's off, man. There hasn't been the same type of intensity, same type of work ethic, same type of passion that the Raptors show on a year-to-year basis. And I don't know, maybe there's nothing wrong behind the scenes, but I don't know. It just feels like there has to be something wrong behind the scenes for this level of incompetence to be happening from a top-tier organization like the Toronto Raptors.
Yeah, but it doesn't change that they're an underachieving team to start the year.
Exactly. The next underachieving team that we have is the Washington Wizards, who have gone 2-5 to start out the season. Now, the main thing about this team is nobody expected them to be a contender, right? Nobody expected them to be a top seed in the East. Maybe, aside from, I don't know, Washington fans, maybe. But nobody expected them to be that great. The problem with this team is I think people really were excited about this team. Me included, us included. We were excited about this team because they had a guy like Russell Westbrook and you had Bradley Beal. We've seen what Bradley Beal and John Wall have done. It's pretty... I mean, it's not great basketball, but it's pretty exciting basketball. It's fun basketball to watch. And we thought hopefully Russell Westbrook can come into that John Wall role, similar type of players, and try to replicate that success, try to get to the playoffs based on their talent. That, unfortunately, has not happened. The main issue with this team, as it's been for the last couple of years, there's still no defense being played. Their offense is pretty good.
Actually,
right?
really good.
Yeah,
I've watched a lot of the Wizards highlights, or like even watching them play a couple times. Like their offense has been very fun.
They're 10th right now in offense. The problem is defensively they're 25th, right? And again, we knew this was going to be an issue, but it still doesn't change the fact that being a 25th ranked defense hurts your team spectacularly. And then one other point too is the fact that their guys who are supposed to be scoring are not doing as great. Now, Rui Hachimura and Bradley Beal have been great, but in particular, Davis Bertans, he's there to do one thing and one thing only. He got paid, $72 million to shoot the ball. He's been shooting 32% from three. Not great. And then Russell Westbrook, unfortunately, has been taking 4 attempts per game from three and shooting 22%. Yeah. So that's also not great, right? Russell Westbrook, we know the problems with Russell Westbrook. It's just unfortunate that 11 years into his career, it seems to be the same problems as when he was a young player in his career.
Yeah, I think with the Wizards, like similar to the Raptors, I can see them turning things around, like getting on a winning streak, winning some games. It can turn the season around for them. The thing with the Wizards is, again, you mentioned it, the defense. This team does not play defense. Like you have to, like the way they beat Brooklyn was because they had a big lead. They gave it up in the fourth quarter and then they had to recover. So the Wizards are an interesting team, man. Like I still think they're fun to watch. They're good, like offensively. I can see that. Like Beal is playing very well. Thomas Bryant is a name that Zishan talked about him a lot. I wasn't really his biggest supporter, but now I'm looking. I'm like, look, he's playing really well.
He's a good player, man.
Like
I called it.
He's a strong center, knows his role, can finish around the rim. Might add.
He's an energizer as well. You're talking about.
He's a hype player, man. Like I see this guy every time he gets an N1, he's on the ground. He's just flexing. Like I like that. Like that's showing hustle. That's showing heart. So there's some good things with the Wizards, but. We didn't expect them to be 2-5 to start their season.
Again, I think it takes some time, obviously, to gel with Russell Westbrook, right? Integrating such a big player into your team, obviously, it's going to take some time. But yeah, as you were talking about it, rough start. Obviously, I think we both have faith that they'll turn around, probably still make the playoffs. I don't see how they would miss the playoffs unless they keep going at this rate. Then yeah, they'll probably miss the playoffs.
Yeah.
But yeah, beginning of season, it's rough right now. They'll hopefully be able to turn it around.
Yeah.
And then that moves us on to our final underachieving team that we have, the Houston Rockets. So they've started out 2-3. Now, one of their games did also get postponed because literally their whole team had COVID, so that did not help. The thing with the Rockets is that they're a middle of the pack team on offense, right? They're ranked as a 12th place team on offense, so middle of the pack on offense, and then they're not great on the defensive end. They're 23rd right now defensively, and then also they have a very slow and stagnant offense. They're ranked in 22nd in terms of pace, and in terms of assists, they're 25th. So we knew this was going to be, obviously with James Harden there, you know the ISOs are going to happen, and it's inevitable, and you want it to happen because, frankly, James Harden is one of the greatest ISO players we've ever seen.
Yeah.
Right? So it works if you give him the ball because he still, in his sleep, averages 30 points a game. Right? So it still works. The problem is, you're trying to integrate a bunch of new players like John Wall, DeMarcus Cousins, Christian Wood onto the team, and then you have James Harden doing his own thing on offense. So I think it's a bit of an identity clash. Not to mention the fact with James Harden is everything else that's surrounding James Harden right now in terms of
I was gonna touch upon that.
in terms of his trade request.
Yeah, like there's just so much. There's a lot of drama surrounding Houston right now. Like until we know what's actually going on with James Harden, we're not gonna probably see the full potential of this team. But there are, again, similar to the Wizards, there are some things I like, man. Like Christian Wood, he has been balling out.
My God.
He's our MIP pick right now, and he's playing really well. You know what's funny? John Wall actually looks very good. Now he's not shooting particularly well, but the burst is there. He can get to the rim. Like for a guy coming off an Achilles tear.
Plus, like, ACL, MCL, whatever.
Yeah,
the knee injuries.
He had 3 surgeries, and he had a few infections involved in that as well.
Yeah, you even talked about they might had to, like, amputate his leg or something.
Yeah, it was something crazy like that, man. But the fact that he's able to, he recovered from that and looks this good, is pretty impressive, man. So, and I think him and Christian Wood fit very well together. I think that's...
I think we said that in the before the season, too. They're going to be a nice pick and roll threat. And then you add DeMarcus Cousins off the bench who can do a bit for you on offense. Problem is DeMarcus Cousins defensively does not help.
Yo, he ain't trying to get any contact. DeMarcus Cousins, every time I see him play defense, I'm just like, yo, this guy's just trying. He's just praying not to get injured, man.
Yeah,
I don't blame him. I don't blame him.
Yeah,
either.
I don't blame him. But unfortunately, like, he's never been a good defender, and obviously now he's lost a step clearly.
Yeah.
So that's not gonna help. And then obviously, rightfully so, he is a bit scared of contact. So
hey man, but he's back. He got his first ejection. He's back.
That's how you know he's back,
That's
bro.
how
When
you
he gets his ejection, that's how you know he's back.
But they're looking solid for 2 players coming off of injury riddled, couple of last seasons. It's nice to see these guys back. And
John Wall in particular.
John Wall in particular, man. Like he's looked good, man. And I did call this. I've been paying attention to what John Wall is doing. But yeah, man, Houston. They're kind of underachieving, man. For now. Now the West is looking a lot more difficult now with a lot of these teams like New Orleans playing very well. So I don't know if Houston's going to be able to make it to the playoffs this year.
Well, especially if James Harden does get traded.
Yeah, especially if Harden does get traded. But yeah, right now the Rockets are definitely a team that's underachieving per se at the moment.
Not to mention they also have no bench, which has been an issue for them for a while now.
Yeah.
They have pretty much nobody off their bench. I think who's their best player off the bench? McLemore?
David Nwaba,
Ben McLemore. Now that they start Eric Gordon.
I mean, when you're paying 2 guys $80 million,
yeah,
it's kind of hard to get a bench. So it's kind of the reality for Houston.
At the very least, they're a fun team to watch.
They're a fun team for sure. So those were our 3 teams that we felt were underachieving this season. Let us know what you guys think. Do you agree or disagree? Or do you have another team that you find is underachieving? Let us know. But we're going to shift gears to the overachieving teams. And there are quite a few of these that we didn't really expect to be in this list. The first team is the Orlando Magic. The Magic have started off the season 5-2. And man, they're a solid team on defense, man. And offensively, they're middle of the pack, but defensively, man, they are 6th in defensive rating, 17th in offensive rating. And you know what's funny with Orlando is that they don't do things that they're not good at. They're not a good 3-point shooting team, so they take the fewest attempts in the league. But they still attack the paint, they still crash the glass and get rebounds, and they'll hammer it inside. They don't, and not to mention they have guys who are finally stepping up. Terrence Ross is one of those guys in particular who's been a big factor for them. He's averaging about 21 points right now.
We all know that's gonna drop.
It's gonna drop, but you know what? He's shooting very well from the field, 55% from threes. I think what I read, something around that range.
Well, the thing about Terrence Ross is that his ability to effectively shoot the ball has never been an issue. The problem is consistency and his ability to actually shoot the ball, right? In terms of him actually making an impact offensively, that's been the biggest sticking point in his career. Where he's a very offensively efficient player, but the problem is he doesn't get those opportunities too much because he doesn't seek them as much as he should.
So he's shooting 41% from 3, but considering the volume that he shoots, it's a pretty good number to be at right now. So yeah, Terrence Ross has been playing well though. You can't deny. No one can deny that he's playing well. Another player is Nikola Vucevic, who had a pretty down year last season, especially after getting that big contract. But he's playing well to start the year, man. He's averaging 21 points, 11 rebounds. He's shooting well from 3. I think he's shooting about 40% from 3, which for Nikola Vucevic, although he doesn't take many, is pretty solid. Nevertheless,
the thing with Nikola Vucevic, I think last year, I don't know if he necessarily had a down year. I think just people's expectations of him were higher than what it should have been. I think Nikola Vucevic is what he is, right?
Yeah, he is what he is.
He deserves a good contract, no doubt. He's one of the better centers in the league, but he's not an elite player. I think after giving him that contract last season, some people thought that he could take that jump to elite status. That's not what he is. He is what he is. He's a good player. He's not a great player, right? So this year, he's expanded his offensive repertoire even more to include a better 3-point shot, something he worked on from last season in particular, and that's improved even more this season. The one thing that's impressive about this team for me is that they're doing this without Jonathan Isaac, particularly defensively, where we know Jonathan Isaac is a hopefully future DPOY candidate. But yeah, they're doing this without arguably their most talented player.
Yeah. And you know what? Another player I do want to shout out is Markelle Fultz, because I think he's playing very well. We did talk about him in our most improved player award conversation that we had in the last episode. I think he's playing pretty well, man. He's averaging 18 points a game. Been a solid creator for the Magic. But yeah, man, Orlando is definitely overachieving, man. They're far above our expectations for this season, and we'll see if it continues. Now, again, this is the thing with these over and underachievers. We're so early into the season that things can change just like that.
Yeah, definitely. The next overachieving team we have is the Cleveland Cavaliers. Now, we definitely, I think, did not see this coming. So right now they're 4-3. That's the record right now. The thing that's surprising about this team is that right now they're second in defensive rating. Right? That's, I think, the biggest shock about this team.
Yeah.
Now, one thing that has contributed to this, obviously, guys like Larry Nance has been playing well defensively for them. Isaac Okoro has looked very nice for them. Obviously, we knew the defensive impact potential that he could have. And right now, he's showing what he can do for you straight out of college. And then finally, we have Andre Drummond. Now, I think we should have probably seen this coming a bit more, considering it is contract year. And we all know NBA players go crazy in their contract year. Andre Drummond's an example of that. Andre Drummond has probably been playing the best defense of his career, which is
surprising,
saying something. He's been very good for them defensively. And then obviously he's been doing his normal offensive thing. He's averaging 16 points right now, 14 rebounds. Obviously, we know if there's one thing he's good at, he's one of the greatest rebounders of all time, right? We know that.
Yeah, he can clean up the glass.
He's very good at that. Again, the surprising thing about Andre Drummond, and the main reason, I think one of the main reasons why Cleveland has been such a good team is their defense. Starting out with a guy like Andre Drummond, who's had a lot of defensive issues in the past. Now that he's improved his defense, at least for this year, we'll see what happens next year. But now that he's improved his defense, Cleveland has looked like a much better team. Another thing that they've done, which I think was very interesting and very smart on JB Bickerstaff's part is the fact that they're really playing Darius Garland with the ball in terms of he's more of the pure point guard, and they've managed to move Colin Sexton off the ball more. And that's led to great success. Darius Garland shooting, he's averaging 17 points right now and pretty good efficiency. But Colin Sexton's being the main story. We called this in our most improved player predictions as well, especially off of last year where he took a huge step up from his rookie season. This year, right now, he's averaging 25.7 points a game, good efficiency, shooting 55% from the field, 54% from three. Now, we said, right, the main thing about this guy, yes, the playmaking is not going to be great, at least right now in this stage of his career. The defense isn't going to be great. But the one thing he can do is create offense for himself. JB Bickerstaff has enabled him to do that by giving the ball handling duties to Darius Garland more, and that's optimized both of their games and complemented both of their games with each other, which has led to great success for the Cleveland Cavaliers.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I haven't been watching the Cavs at all, but they've quietly came up with this 4-3 record, which again isn't anything to go crazy over.
I mean, last year they did the exact same thing.
Yeah, so again, it's nothing to go crazy over. But considering that the rest of the league is having so many struggles, like let's be real, the Bucks are currently sitting at what, the 7th seed. You know, the Celtics are a 4 seed. Like the Knicks are a 5th seed. We'll talk about them in a minute. But you know, the defense is very surprising to me because on their roster I don't really see, you know, defensive minded players unless you're talking about, you know, Isaac Okoro or, you know, Andre Drummond maybe when he wants to play defense, but you don't really see defensive players on this team. So it's definitely pretty interesting to see Cleveland do that.
Speaking of Andre Drummond's defense, the problem we've had with Andre Drummond is the fact that he's so much better when he wants to be. The problem is he never achieves that status. The one year the Pistons made the playoffs, I remember this vividly. Andre Drummond was at his peak in terms of being one of the better passers at the big man position in the league. And then he was playing pretty good defense. You know, he was stifling at the rim, he was blocking shots and whatnot. Problem is he never got to that level again. I think also when Blake Griffin came in, it really hurt his confidence. And then obviously he had a much lesser role with Blake Griffin there. But you're looking at that guy in Andre Drummond who was able to do that in the 2017, 2016 season. One of those seasons where he was being a good defender, good passer. But unfortunately, we never saw that from him again. So the fact that he's playing hopefully more to that production level now for the Cleveland Cavaliers really helps them as a team. Obviously, contract year and whatnot. But
yeah,
we're talking about this year.
Yeah, it really just depends on whether or not this is going to last with the Cleveland Cavaliers. To be honest with you, I don't think it will. I think they'll come back down to earth. Or other teams in the East will start to play better and kind of bring things back into reality. But it's a pretty good sign if you're a fan of Cleveland, man. Like if the Cavs, the fact that, you know, your young team is looking pretty good. You know,
as a Cleveland fan, if you know Cleveland fans aren't expecting their team to make the playoffs, but you know you want your team to show signs of improvement. I think with this start, especially how not just that they're winning games, but the fact that their players are playing cohesive, their players are playing well, especially the young guys. I think if you're a Cleveland fan, you gotta be happy with it.
Yeah, no, for sure. Which brings us to a team with a fan base that always expects them to make the playoffs. We're talking about the New York Knicks. And I never thought I would be here right now. I'd have to say nice things about the New York Knicks. And
yeah, this hurts for you, bro. I'm not as bad on the Knicks as Hani is, but it is pretty funny.
So the Knicks have started off the season 4-3. And you know what? Tom Thibodeau has gotten this team playing competitive, man. They're playing well on both ends of the floor. Julius Randle has looked very good in particular. You know, it's really it's weird because the Knicks have also beaten good teams. Like, you know, they've beaten the Bucks, they've beaten
Indiana, they beat Atlanta.
So they beat some good teams. And, you know, they even they lost to the Raptors, but you know what? They shot historically bad from three for the Raptors to actually
They shot 8% in that game.
Yeah, it was very bad that they shot. But man, the Knicks are they're playing well, man. Like, I don't get a lot to say.
Like, in terms of their stats right now, they're middle of pack or less than average in terms of most of their stats. So Do we expect this to last? No, I don't, because in terms of their team, they haven't shown us enough. Well, they haven't shown me enough that they're that great of a team.
Oh, Knicks fans are already saying they're going to be a playoff team. Did
Yeah,
you already know that?
I know. They're already saying that. So in terms of production value, no, I don't think they're gonna be anything more than a 10th seed. Let's just get that out of the way. The main thing I think for the Knicks and Knicks fans is that they've at least been competitive, right? So for the past how many years, it was pretty much a guaranteed blowout half the time for the Knicks that they would lose in a blowout. This season, they've been competitive in all their games for the most part, right? Even we're talking about the Toronto game where they got blown out. That was mostly in the fourth quarter where, again, the Knicks just couldn't buy a bucket for the majority of the game. And to their luck, Toronto's just a garbage offensive team as well, right? And then finally in the fourth quarter, Toronto was able to make a couple more baskets than the Knicks were, and that was the difference in the game. Low-key, Toronto could maybe lost that game if we're being honest.
I mean, we were
sad Raptors fans where we could have lost the Knicks.
We were watching that game as we were recording, I think, an episode of the podcast.
Yeah, exactly.
So
the Knicks, the main thing about the Knicks is that they've at least shown the heart and the determination to try and do well within games, as if, they're probably not going to be able to finish games. But that's the one thing that comes along with the Tom Thibodeau-led team, right? They're going to be competitive. Now, we're not the biggest fans of Tom Thibodeau, but that's the one thing you can't say about him, is that he's a very competitive guy, and he'll make sure your team is number one, competitive, and number two, disciplined. Where we've seen that, I think, in particular with Mitchell Robinson, who's fouling even less than he was previously. And that was, the biggest problem with Mitchell Robinson. He's one of the most talented centers in the league. And defensively, he's amazing, too. But the problem is he could never stay in game. Tom Thibodeau has curbed his fouls down to around 3 fouls right now. And if Mitchell Robinson can stay on that path and, limit his fouls to max 4 a game, then the Knicks have a much better chance of winning because he is one of the better defensive centers in the league.
But good segue over to Tom Thibodeau. Now, I have been notorious to say that the Knicks have made a mistake to hire Tom Thibodeau as their head coach. And I'm still standing by that. I still think Tom Thibodeau does not work well with young players. Just my opinion and what I've seen. And another thing I want to mention about Tom Thibodeau having a hot start with a new team that he's coaching. Did we all see Minnesota?
I was just gonna say Minnesota.
Did we see them when he first started? Weren't they like? At one point they were a 3rd seed because of Jimmy Butler, but like even before Jimmy even got there, they started the year like 5-0 or something, like something insane like that. So this is nothing new that we've seen from Tom Thibodeau. And another thing is he's doing what he normally does. He plays his star players a ton of minutes. Julius Randle's playing 39 minutes a game. RJ Barrett's playing 39 minutes a game.
And that's my biggest fear. I really hope they don't. He doesn't mess up RJ Barrett, bro. Because as Canadians, we're a big fan of RJ Barrett. I would have rather him not get drafted to the Knicks, but it is what it is at this point. I understand why you wanted to go to the Knicks in terms of money reasons, but hopefully Tibbs doesn't run him into the ground.
And I know the Knicks have beaten some good teams right now, but mark my words, man, I don't see this shit lasting. I want the Knicks fans to be back where they need to be, with their tears going through the gutter of New York, of the state of New York. That's where they need to be, because that's how your team is, that's how your front office is, and that's how your owner is.
Yeah,
so
that's the biggest thing.
I need to get my slander out of the way right now, because sure, you're playing well right now, and I even have coworkers of mine that are saying, "Oh, the Knicks are going to be a playoff team." No, not this season.
To your point about the organization, though. I will say Leon Rose is, I think, being more competent, at least. We can say that. He's been more competent than everyone else in New York for the past, decade plus. The main problem is that you still have your owner. And if you want to succeed, if you have a history of your owner being the problem in the organization, you're not going to have a great chance of turning things around.
Yeah. So, speaking of a team that is actually decently run, and a team that actually has playoff aspirations, and a team that I think we kind of slept on a little bit.
We'll see.
We'll see, for sure. It's the Indiana Pacers. The Indiana Pacers have started the season off 5-2, and this is a very balanced team, man. They score effectively and defend very well as well. They're 7th in offensive rating, 8th in defensive rating. That's,
top 10 in both.
That's elite on both ends of the floor. Very impressive for a team with a brand new coach, new system, returning players off injuries. But
Do we expect that to last? No.
Well, who knows?
I don't expect that to last.
They might still be a playoff team. But
they could definitely make it.
The biggest thing is Sabonis. Domantas Sabonis has been playing very, very well. You know, he's averaging 21 points, 7 assists, and I think he's averaging 11 rebounds, something like that. So he's been fantastic for them this season, man. And even other players like Victor Oladipo has been having a pretty good year for them. Malcolm Brogdon has been playing pretty well for them. This team is just playing hard. Nate Bjorkgren, their new coach,
shout out Nate Bjorkgren.
Shout out Nate Bjorkgren, man. He's gotten this team playing pretty well. I mean, they don't play fast paced, but you know what? They're third in field goal percentage. They're 15th in 3-point percentage. You know, they're fourth in assists per game, so they share the ball a lot. You know, this team they don't turn the ball over either. Like, this team is very disciplined, a very smart team.
And that was the main thing, right? Shout out to Nate Bjorkgren. Because as Raptors fans, we knew this too, right? He was gonna definitely make this team a better team, and that's why we liked the hire of Nate Bjorkgren so much, because we had a first-hand experience of what he can do as pretty much Nick Nurse's offensive coordinator in Toronto, right? And that's the one thing that has really helped Indiana. He's modernized their offense a lot more. To your point about them shooting more threes, passing the ball more, having a more efficient offense compared to what they were running with Nate McMillan, which was a lot of not modern offense, right? A lot of
TJ Warren,
a lot of stagnation, a lot of just ugly offense in general, right? And that was one of their biggest problems. Not that they got a more modern coach to fit their team. You're seeing a lot better production from this team as a result. And we've talked about it as well. They're a very solid team. They have a lot of good players. The main issue we had was that everyone in the East was also a lot better. And would their talent be able to make up for the talent that's ahead of them in the charts for the Eastern Conference? And, you know, we'll see about that.
Yeah.
But Nate Bjorkgren's got them playing great team basketball. And as Raptors fans, we know if you can play great team basketball, you have a great chance to, you know, do well in the regular season and then hopefully do well in the playoffs. So Indiana fans definitely, I think, should be excited about this team.
Yeah.
And that ends us off to the final team that we have for our overachieving section. I don't think necessarily that we thought this team was going to be bad. Actually, we had them as a playoff team as well.
Well, we changed them into a playoff team.
Yeah, we changed them on the spot into a playoff team. But I don't think we thought they would be this good. Now, again, it is very early in the season. But we're talking about the New York Knicks who started...
Phoenix Suns.
Phoenix Suns, my bad. The Phoenix Suns who started 5-2 in the regular season. Now, the main thing about the Phoenix Suns is that they are good on both sides of the ball right now. So, for example... let me check their stats. So, for example, right now, they're 9th in offensive rating and 5th in defensive rating. So, again, as you're talking about with the... who are you talking
Pacers.
about? With the Pacers. Elite on both sides of the ball. If you're elite on both sides of the ball, we know historically if you're top 10 in both sides of the ball, you're a championship contender.
Well, at least a playoff team, minimum.
Yeah, minimum. Now, do we expect them to be that great? No, I don't expect them
Especially
to be...
in the West.
I don't expect their defense to be a top 10 defense in the league. Now, it could happen.
5.
Yeah, it could happen, though. They do have... Their offensive, their off-season additions were great in that respect, right? You have great offensive players in Devin Booker, in DeAndre Ayton, in Cam Johnson, and then now you add on defensive players, so Chris Paul is still a good defender even at his age right now. But then you add guys like Jay Crowder, right? You already have a guy like Javon Carter, Mikal Bridges. So you now have a very balanced team on both sides of the ball, which is why you see their success. It's not even like their players have been playing particularly great. Like Devin Booker's averaging 21 right now. His efficiency isn't Devin Booker-esque, right? Chris Paul is averaging 13 right now. DeAndre Ayton's scoring is down. So it's not like one of their players or multiple players have just been playing insane. They're all playing, I think, worse, quote-unquote, than what they're accustomed to playing. But it's about the fact that they now have a better team offensively and defensively. So now they can spread the roles around better. They can share the ball more. And there's a lot more talent on the team now, which means each player like Devin Booker and DeAndre Ayton don't have to do that as much. They don't have as much of a responsibility. And having a guy like Chris Paul to game manage every single game works well.
Yeah, man, the Chris Paul effect is real, man. Like this guy is a bona fide winner. You put this guy in any team, and he's gonna get them to play better. Like that's just how it is. We saw that in Oklahoma City last season, and we're seeing this now with Phoenix Suns. Like the team is playing a lot better than I think anyone has expected them to start the season off. But especially considering this is a new team with a new system. Well, not really a new system, but it's a new team playing together and having to mesh and gel with not really a preseason or training camp. So the fact that they're playing this well is very impressive, man. Now whether or not it will last, now that's to be seen, man. The Western Conference is very volatile right now. You know, things.
Well, even in the East at this point, bro, both conferences are pretty insane.
Like I said, the standings just look weird, man. Like you look up and down the standings, man. The Knicks are in the playoffs. Like
as of right now,
like that's. I can't get over that. But you know what's funny? Like the Phoenix Suns are a very good team, and you know, I mean, hopefully, if they keep it up, they can be a playoff team in the Western Conference.
I think at this rate they will be a playoff team. Obviously, do I think they're going to be ninth in offense and fifth in defense to end out the season?
No.
I don't. But the main thing is right now that's where they're at. That's a good sign for their team. And in terms of their players, they have great players up and down the board. They have a very competent, a very good, talented team. So I think you fully expect them to at least be in contention for making the playoffs, if not be able to get a home court advantage in the playoffs.
Yeah. So Phoenix is definitely an overachieving team to start the year. But yeah, those were the teams that we believe are overachieving to start this season. Let us know what you guys think. Do you agree or disagree? Or do you have any other teams that you feel that we missed who are overachieving to start the season? With that being said, we're going to shift over to the up and under segment to end off this week's episode. First off, are you up or under on Shaquille O'Neal continuing his hating streak on younger players? And are you up or under on his beef with Rudy Gobert about his new contract?
I'm under on this, bro. Like, yo, we all know Shaq is a great dude in terms of the charity and whatnot that he does. But we also know he does get very salty, right? He is a bit sensitive, right? And he does have a hating streak of players, as you were talking about, particularly centers, right? He always talks about how in order to be a good big man, you have to average like 30 and 20, 30 and 15. The problem I have with that is that, like, bro, that's not going to happen.
That's not realistic.
That's not realistic, right? That's definitely not realistic. And especially in the fact of, his hate for Rudy Gobert. Now, is anything he's saying about Rudy Gobert wrong, necessarily? No, but the issue is that, like, it's just something that's a constant, like, issue with Shaq where he just hates on younger players for some reason. Especially, I think, not to make something big out of this, but he has a hating streak of European players, particularly, if we will say that. Rudy Gobert, Nikola Jokic, Luka Doncic. Like, he has a streak of hating on, I think it's the old head thing, right? And in particular, Shaq's on TV a lot more, so you see a lot more with him. But, we've all heard, modern basketball is not good, the players aren't good, whatever, like Shaq was saying. Like, Shaq in the playoffs last year, I remember vividly, he was saying, Denver's not a dominant team, they're not a good team, blah, blah, blah. Like, stuff like that, like, Shaq's a good dude, but in terms of his history, like, we all know the type of history he has. It just comes off as, like, a salty hater kind of thing, right? It's like, bro, why are you looking at another dude's money, right? That's my main thing. Like, Rudy Gobert got $200 million. Okay, fine. Should he have gone that? No. But, like, bro, why are you hating on the other dude's money, bro? He got the money. Let him get his money.
To be honest with you, I found what he said was funny. Like, I actually thought
funny.
It's funny, but I can see where it was disrespectful to Rudy Gobert because, I mean, hey, he wasn't the one who got offered that contract. The Utah Jazz offered him that contract. He just was smart enough to sign his name on the line.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, and I can't fault Rudy Gobert for signing the contract. I can fault the Utah Jazz for offering it to him, but that's a whole different conversation. But Shaq really didn't need to.
And my thing is, like, bro, even Rudy Gobert was like, yo, I don't even know what I did to this guy. I'm not going to respond to this guy, right? Yeah. Like, what's the point, right? And I think the biggest example of this was his, like, disrespect to Dwight after he won the championship. And I was like, bro, what was the point of doing that? Like, he was making fun of Dwight crying. Like, bro, if you look at Dwight's story, bro, from where he came from and then how his NBA career happened for him to get that championship. And it's not like he was a bench warmer either. He contributed to that championship. And for Shaq to say the things about that he said about Dwight too, I was like, yo, there's literally no point of doing that, man. That comes off as like kind of disrespectful, kind of arrogant, like there's no point of doing that kind of stuff. I don't know why he keeps going on, but I mean, I guess it's just one of those things that gets inherited from generation to generation, like how like Wilt, for example, used to hate on the '90s players a lot. He would talk about Shaq not being good and other.
It's
90s
generational hate.
It's a generational hate. I hope we don't do that, but
we probably will. I mean, we've already started. Let's be real. I mean, at this point, I mean, Shaq he's gonna say what he wants because he's on TV and he gets paid to do that.
Exactly. So, next up, are you up or under on Marvin Bagley's dad tweeting that he wants his son traded from the Sacramento Kings?
Yeah, I'm up on it because everyone wants to get traded out of Sacramento now.
Facts.
Look, man, it's two things. Number one, Luke Walton is not a great coach. He doesn't really know how to utilize Marvin Bagley correctly. But number two is Marvin Bagley isn't really that great. Like, I thought it was a stretch for him to be picked number 2 overall in the draft. Like, the Kings reached a lot to pick this guy up. Now, granted, he's shown flashes of being good, but he does need development. But the fact that you picked him over Luka Doncic,
especially if the reasons are true as to why, especially if the reasons are true as to why Vlade picked Marvin Bagley and not Luka Doncic, in terms of Vlade not liking Luka's dad because of their playing days or whatever. That's ridiculous, man.
Hey, man, for a dirty player like Vlade, you have too many enemies to be picky.
Yeah, exactly. Now, again, it is funny. It is, like, I don't disagree with him wanting his son to be traded because, frankly, any player on that team would probably want to get traded. The issue is obviously professionalism, right? And you can't have your dad... It's the LeVar Ball situation.
You just can't have that. Like, your dad can't be speaking for you. You got to speak your mind as a player, or don't do it publicly on social media. Do it in a closed setting.
And especially, you can't do it for your son, like, ruin the organization while he's still, might I add, a young player trying to find his way in the NBA, right? Like, that's not... I get it in terms of his dad wanting the best for him, and he's a parent, right? It is what it is. But, back to your point, it's the LeVar Ball situation. Yeah, you don't really want that in terms of a professional job like you have in the NBA, especially one that's scrutinized as a sports job.
Yeah. So, I mean, it is what it is. I don't see Marvin Bagley being traded, but they're just kind of funny. And finally, are you up or under on Paul George, way off P, regular P, hearing more trash talk from players this season?
I'm up on it. Like, bro, what did you expect to happen? He was talking about how people are talking a lot of trash talk to him more this season than compared to other seasons. And it's like, that's kind of expected, bro. That's going to happen.
I don't know. How much shit did he talk last season?
Exactly.
Like,
how he was one of the main reasons why people wanted the Clippers to fail so much, because of the fact that him, Patrick Beverley, Marcus Morris, they talked so much junk, but... and he failed miserably, which is why you're going to see more trash talk. Now, another thing about the trash talk point, I think in general, the trash talk is a lot higher this season because there's no fans, obviously, and players can now freely speak to each other. So, obviously, the trash talk is going to be higher. But in terms of his situation, like, bro, you developed a reputation in this league. You failed miserably last year. Everyone wanted you to lose. Everyone not in the Clippers organization wanted you to lose in terms of the NBA fan base.
Well, I didn't want the Clippers to lose.
I wanted the Clippers.
They were my pick for the championship, and then they blew it.
I'm not even gonna front, bro. I wanted the Clippers to lose. I was laughing in Game 7. I was literally dying in Game 7 watching that game. But yeah, bro, you kind of deserve it. That's what happens when you play bad. When you talk trash and you can't back up your trash talk, you're gonna get trash talk.
Hey, man, it is what it is, man. If you're just gonna be way off like that, man, players are gonna be way off to you. That's just how it is, man. I can keep rolling with the way off P jokes, man. I just thought it was hilarious.
Right now, he's a regular P.
He's regular P now.
To the score, yeah.
No, he's always gonna be way off P to me. Backboard P.
Backboard P.
Oh man. I don't think we're title contenders P. Yeah, there's a lot of Paul George has done a lot of talking. He needs to do more playing on the court. But with that, that concludes this week's episode. We hope you guys enjoyed it. Definitely subscribe to the show on all the various platforms. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher Radio, and of course on YouTube. Or wherever you can find a podcast, you can find us with the Up and Under Podcast. Also follow us on social media, Twitter and Instagram at UP_N_Under Podcast, Facebook.com/Up and Under Podcast for all the latest updates whenever we post a new episode or a reaction to news as they occur. Also check out our website, UpandUnderPodcast.com. It's our central hub for the show. It's also a place where we write blog posts about every single episode. So if you don't have time to listen to the full thing, you can read about it on our website. So definitely check it out if you haven't done so already. And yeah, man, the season is underway, man, and
we've already seen
shit's crazy.
Yeah, we've already seen a lot of surprises, bro. Welcome to the 2020-2021 season for sure.
Yeah, man. And we'll see you guys on the next one. Take it easy.
Easy.